Um, I can fully step into my divine self in 2024, now free from a very toxic relationship and ready to live into my purpose and passions. Who's game for that? You're on the right call. Yay! So, by formal introduction, yes, Joe has made energy healing and coaching his life. It's his path over personal victory, over certain death, leading him to become an extraordinary healing facilitator and teacher. So he knows his stuff, he's been there. His amazing, powerful techniques bring those results in emotional, physical, and spiritual healing, especially for those when nothing else has worked.
Mhm.
So his profound techniques are beyond anything you've ever experienced. If you or someone that you know has ever experienced pain, illness, or emotional roadblocks, anybody here can relate to that? Yes. This is where Joe's intuitive gifts and techniques can absolutely help because they allow him to see your highest gifts and eliminate health and life blocks that hinder you from achieving your dreams. His intuitive gifts facilitate the elimination of blocks and quickly bring wealth. Who doesn't want more wealth? More wellness and wisdom to ease pain and bring joy in pretty much all areas of your life. So, welcome, Joe. I'm delighted to be your co host for this session. I know it's going to be really intriguing and fascinating for everyone on the call. So, welcome. The stage is yours.
Well, thank you very, very much, Yvonne. I appreciate that. And if you could actually spotlight me now. And so this is going to be recorded, but from now out, it is not going to have your faces on. It'll just have my face. And so thank you all for coming. And one of the things that people have asked, it's just like, okay, so live into your divine. What on earth does that mean? And I can tell that there's other people on here that are coaches and that have worked and have seen so many things about divine goddess, divine energy, divine feminine. And so I really like to look and see what is it that we're actually really saying. And so I look up the divine and I look it up in the thesaurus, and divine is godly, good, eminent, honest, just, angelic, gorgeous, bright, intense, vivid, glorious. And I should probably just go, it's godly, gorgeous, mythological, pleasant, sacred, and superb. So look at that again. So it's godly, gorgeous, mythological, pleasant, sacred, and superb. So just those things alone, if we think about and really want to feel that, if we want to take those words, what does it mean to feel superb? I mean, just superb. It's like, wow. But then when we really look at the words themselves, we go in, superb is noble, okay? It's elevated, it's exalted, and it's magnificent. So when you think about divine and you think about divine goddess or divine feminine or the divine woman, and you think about noble and you think about elevated, exalted, and magnificent, that's like, okay, we're on the right track, you know? And so then is sacred. And this one I like so much because it's what it is it's vocal, it's chiming, and it's blending. And so these are some of the characteristics about women where I'll talk about it a little bit more, but Dalai Lama says that women are going to be the salvation of the world. And so it's like, well, how is it that they're going to be the salvation of the world? And it's like, if women live into this, if they live into their magnificence, their nobility, their elevation, their exalted, if they come in with that vocal and they live from who they are, of course, it's going to make a ginormous difference in the world. So then we look pleasant, melodious, again, golden tongue, mellifluent. And mellifluent, I was like, that's a cool word. But what it is it's easy to hear. And I really like the Native American way of looking at things as well. And the deer basically has been talked about as the deer wanted to bring that message to the mountain. And so the deer came with its softness, but its strength, and it came with its agility and its ability to go through and get over any obstacle, but it came through with its own passion in that way. And so again, if we look at it to see that kind of power, It's like, okay, we're on a really, really good start, you know? And mythological all by itself goes back into the divine, you know? And so when we look at the mythological, it's completely open. So if you think about all the myths that you ever heard, and you get to have those, you get to create those. You get to go back to that time in the sandbox where it's like, what am I? Who am I? And that's the kind of stuff that as we go through this tonight, I want you to really think about who you are. Because the divine feminine and the divine woman is the divine you. It's not something where it's just like, oh, okay, you know, here's a, you know, peanut butter sandwich. We got bread and we got peanut butter. Okay. That's not what divine woman is. Divine woman is who are you inside here? And as you vocalize and as you blend, it's not bellowing. It's basically saying, this is me, this is what I know, and this is what I see. And so I think it's pretty cool. Gorgeous. Okay. So we think about it, just think about it. For me, gorgeous sunrise and sunset, you know, or, you know, when I go for a walk and I see the jasmine or the gardenia, you know, something like that, or I see those tiny, tiny little red flowers that you see sometimes, you know, it's gorgeous. It catches your attention. It makes you stop. It makes you want to really, it's like, hey, what is this? And so, and that's you. And it's not just this appearance, you know, because when I go for a walk at night, you know, I can smell the night blooming jasmine before I ever see it. And so we want to go into that divine essence again. And so bright, intense, vivid, glorious, you know, godly, you know, the good, the eminent, the honest, the just, the angelic. So as I say these, are any of these resonating for anybody? Does it make sense, friend? Okay. I see some people, and so thanks. Okay, okay, cool. What is it that you have there, Olga? Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out that. Yeah, okay, cute. So, you know, and then when I was looking further, woman really is, you know, it's unfortunate right now how woman is being, you know, done with whatever it is in the world right now. But in reality, woman is the vessel of creation. Okay, so when you look at it as the vessel of creation, and it doesn't necessarily mean babies, but it definitely means ideas. It definitely means wisdom. It definitely means sharing. Because if you look through all the culture in the past, women are the ones that sit down. The women are the ones that come together. They talk together, they solve problems together, and they have that lineage that helps and assists all of those that are around them. So it's, you do not need to create a child because you're always going to be creating ideas. You're going to be creating communities. You're going to be creating solutions. But what we want to concentrate on today is what are you creating inside you? Because we sit there, it's like, you know, too often people get like, okay, I'm gonna save the world, you know, and I can't, Greg Braden had a really, really good way of saying this. I can't remember how it was, but the whole idea and the essence was we have to save inside here first, because if I don't save me and I go out there and I try and, you know, and save you, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You're gonna hear through the fallacy. So what we want to be able to do is how is it that you feel really strong, really solid, really whole? And as you live that, then you create birth of that idea and that feeling. And that's what's necessary in the world. I love how Carolyn Mace talks about it. And Carolyn Mace talks about, she's always so elegant, you know, healer schmealer. You know, she always has these things. And she says, every single person on this earth is a healer. Whether it's the banker, the butcher, the garbage man, you know, the beautician, she says, everybody's a healer if they show up in their authentic way. And so if you show up in your authentic way, you're the one that's going to be able to hold that, you know, chalice of creation. And you're going to be able to be the one that's going to be able to make this kind of difference in the world if you hold that kind of authenticity and you own who you really are. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, cool, cool. And so I was also, you know, I was looking for more, you know, stuff. And so Milton, he says that women is the last and best creation of God's works. C.S. Lewis, he talks about the fact that women are spiritually perceptive and good-hearted. And then, of course, the Dalai Lama, he says that women are going to be the salvation of the world. And when I look at that, I was like, oh, okay, so what does that mean, the salvation? And it's really quite a bit, because the salvation is going to be redemption and rescue. And so it's like, wow. Okay, so well, we know without a doubt that the world does need both the redemption and the rescue. And so if we look at it and we see, what does that mean? You know, it's like, how can a woman, cool, she's superb, she's noble, she's magnificent, she's sacred, she's vocal, you know, she's mythological, that can create, she's intense, she's vivid, she's glorious. So I want you to take for a moment and think about these for yourself. The divine, and I'll go slowly. We got godly, gorgeous, mythological, pleasant, sacred, superb, good, eminent, honest, just, angelic, bright, intense, vivid, glorious, melodious, golden tongue, mellifluent, harmonious, vocal, chiming, blending, noble, elevated, exalted, magnificent. So is there anybody that can say it's like, you know, this one, and that one, you know? Okay, I see Olga. It's like, you know, you want to share, Olga? You want to?
Sure. Golden tongue. That's
Okay.
that was kind of, I never heard of it. And vocal and golden tongue kind of came together.
Cool. Yeah, I can see that. And you know, and the mellifluent, it's to me, it's a really fun word, mellifluent. And it's basically that same kind of thing. It's that blending, and it's something where it's easy to listen to. And that's something that I look at as, you know, because we know what it's like when somebody's screaming. It's like, you got to do this different. You got to do that different. You should. And it's just like, you know, you take those earplugs out right away and say, next. But if we come in there and it's like, this is my experience, this is me, and this is my world, then we can be able to see that. And it's, if we own this, and this is the part where, you know, when I coach people, what happens so often is people are thinking, you know, they're thinking, I got to be this, I got to be that, I got to be this, I got to be that. And they're out of reach. But what I like, there's a fabulous book. It's called Strength Finder 2.0. It's by Gallup Books, and it's Strength Finder 2.0. And you have to get a brand new version of the book because in the back, there's a code, and you type in the code and you take the test. And the idea is that it's going to come up with your 5 best unique strengths to you. And Michael Jordan is in the quoted in the book, and he's talking about the fact that it's like, wouldn't it be silly to try and make me be Yo-Yo Ma and have Yo-Yo Ma be me? And I don't know if you guys know Yo-Yo Ma, but he's an incredible cellist. Well, would you try and take this guy that plays cello and try and make him play basketball? That'd be ludicrous. But how often have you found, I gotta be that, I gotta be this, and try and make yourself be something that isn't your skill set? You know, I watch my daughters, and my daughters are incredible artists. I mean, I just look and say, how the hell can you, I mean, they can draw, they can paint, both of them can sing like angels. Both of them have been in choirs. And I look, and it's just like, well, you wouldn't want me in a choir unless it was a grunge band, you know? So for me to try and practice that, it could be interesting, but it would be silly for me to try and make that one of the best things about me. And so what I want you to do is I want you to look at this list, and I'll share it when we're all done. I'll send it out to you. But I want you to look at the list and like, what of these strengths are mine? Because what we want to do is, it's kind of like, okay, you guys go out and you make your absolute favorite dessert. And it's just like, you know, hey, what's up? You didn't make flourless chocolate cake. How come you didn't make flourless chocolate cake? Everybody knows what, I mean, flourless chocolate cake is the best dessert there is. Well, that's for me. There's, I know that there's some unfortunates, that don't enjoy chocolate as much as I do. But it's one of those things where what is it that you do enjoy so much? Is it the, strawberry shortcake? Is it the pineapple upside down? What is it that really is you? And that's what I want as we talk about this in this, entire process tonight, is I want you to start really thinking about me. What do I feel? What do I need? What do I desire? Because when we own that and really jump into it and say, this is me, every single thing else, starts to go better. So, and I'm going to back that up. It's like, has anybody, tried and tried and tried and tried in a relationship and it just didn't work? So, and so, well, you tried and tried and tried. How come it couldn't work? Well, what we want to realize is that not every relationship is supposed to work, but it's also something that I can only come from my skill set, my joy. And if you guys have ever taken the test, the 5 love languages, it's, well, if you have, mine are time and touch. And so it's like, you can do acts of service to me and it's just like, well, I'll be extremely appreciative, that's for sure. But it's not going to be the one that really fills my heart. And so what I want you all to concentrate is, as we go on, as I talk about things, what really resonates in your own heart. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Because what's happened is, when we're born, I believe that we're all born incredible miracles. And I believe that we're all born incredible miracles, and that, unfortunately, we're told to sit down, shut up, and behave. And, when we're told to sit down, shut up, and behave, or act like your brother, or act like your sister, or why can't you be like Susie? Susie's so incredible, what I want you to be able to do is start to realize that you're the miracle that was born. That you're really the miracle. You're the one that the world needs. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah. And so when this happens, can you go back and can you feel the times in which you've really stood up for yourself and you really were you and things really started to fall into place? That makes sense? Yeah. And that's one of the things as we talk, I'm going to ask different things in a little bit. Okay, yeah, Yvonne is asking people to keep the camera on. And Yvonne, if there's any questions in there that I need to pay attention to, by all means, interrupt me and say, hey, Joe, we have a question. And so I lost my train of thought here a second. So when you are being you to the absolute best, that's what we need. Because unfortunately, when we were told to be different, to shut up, I was squashed. People ask if I knew that I had these psychic or intuitive gifts. And it's like, I'd be the last to know. Because when I was a kid, I was told, go sit down, and I learned that it was best not to be seen. People say it's best to be heard and not seen. It's like, no, if they can't see you, they can't do anything to you. They can't catch you. So what I want to talk, okay, so Valentina's saying that she's had bad connection. So, okay. And I see some new people popping on, and Deanna, nice to see you. Nicole, nice to see you. And so everybody take a couple really deep breaths. And as we go through, feel free to ask questions. And if you don't want to ask them right now, write them down so you do not forget them. Okay. And what I want to talk about as we go through is, what is your intention? We think about the fact that it's the new year, okay? And it's just like, okay, we sat down, we made the resolutions and all that and everything. But what is your real intention? What is your real desire? And this is something that's so unfortunate that there's multiple universities that have done studies upon this. And every single study, women rank themselves 5th. And what it is, the significant other comes first, the children comes first, the career comes first, the pet comes first, and then maybe themselves. And that's what it is. And so that's something where I want you to start to really think about and feel the whole idea of putting the oxygen on yourself first. And when I say putting the oxygen on, what I want you to think about is what fills me? What fills my soul? And especially, it's like when we think about it, what's the intention? And so when we think about the intention, well, I want to be more of this, I want to have more sales, I want to, have more money in the bank account. Okay, cool. But if you listen to anybody that's been in The Secret or other people like Dave Meltzer is the man that Jerry Maguire was based on. Show me the money. Well, that was David Meltzer. And David Meltzer had buku bucks. He had millions of dollars, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And his wife challenged him one day and she goes, is this really who you want to be? Is this really what you want to feel? And she goes, because you make me gross. She goes, I'm no longer attracted to you. She goes, I know who you are. I know the man that I met. The man that I met's pretty damn good. But who you are, the focus that you have, the intention that you have. And so he really did a complete about face. And it was the first book that he wrote was about gratitude. And so I ask you to look at, and what is your intention? And what is your desire? Because, New Year's resolutions, okay, I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to look better. Well, why? Why do you want to do this? I want to feel happy. I want to accept me. And when I say that I want to be happy and I want to accept me, is there anybody that kind of feels that little bit of a wiggle go down their spine like, oh my God, I just said I want to accept me? Yeah, I can see a couple faces. Yeah, because to simply say that I want to accept me, who the hell am I? Because we were told that. Who are you to think you deserve that? What do you think you're special? And it's time to understand, yes, I am special. At one time, you were held and somebody looked at you and said, oh my God, look at this amazing miracle. Whether it was the doctor, the nurse, your parents, nieces, aunts, uncles, somebody looked at you and knew the miracle that you really were and that you really are. So I want you to really think about that and start to feel that you are that. And that's one of the things that when I work with my clients, I ask them, it's like, what do you desire? What do you desire? What do you want? I want my kids to be happy. I want my husband to be happy. I want my girlfriend to be happy. And it's just like, okay, and what do you want? What's going to feed your soul? Certainly, it can feed our soul to see our significant people be happy. But what is it that you need? How is it? What's going to happen? What's going to be that you feel? What do you want to feel? For me, I want to feel honored. I want to feel cherished. I want to feel admired. So Joe, how you doing? Seriously, when you look at the mirror, or when you look at your little you, it's like, okay, do I admire you? Do I do something on a regular basis that you can feel safe, that you can feel cherished? And so I ask you too, when you look at you, are you starting to admire you? Are you starting to cherish you? And this is so important because when we go out and we're in the same kind of crappy relationships, dating the same kind of person, different package, different hair color, different eye color, different height, different weight, but it's the same kind of person. What we want to look at is in here, because I'm the one that has gone up to the order, counter and said, I want to, what do I want? I want a pizza with pepperoni, sausage, and mushrooms, Well, I have to be able to go up there and be able to say that this is what I want. And if I supposedly say this is what I want, and I go up there and I get a 5-cheese pizza, like, well, I didn't order a 5-cheese pizza. I ordered mushroom, sausage, pepperoni. What the heck? But so we want to be honest with ourselves. How often is it that you get that same yucky kind of relationship? And it doesn't need to be a romantic relationship, because it can be the family too. How is it in your family? Are you getting the same crap different day? Same year, same junk? So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to see, what am I doing in here? What is the magnet that I am and that I'm creating? Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. And so I'm going to step in and, there's a couple of things that I want. So everybody take a couple really deep breaths. And I want you to think, about 2 or 3 things that are unique to you, that make you feel self-acceptance, happy, proud. What are 2 or 3 things that when you look, you can say, yeah, this is me. This is me. And would anybody like to share any of these? What some of them are?
So Joe, we're getting, whoops, just one second here. We're getting, want to enjoy my life, see the beauty around me, people, places, and things. I want to be free to be myself. I want to feel appreciated. I added, I'm choosing to put my sovereignty first in 2024. So go ahead, and if you haven't put in your intention or how you want to feel, go ahead and pop that in the chat window as well. Yeah,
and what I really want you to concentrate on, because like enjoying the nature and enjoying traveling or, places or events, that is very, very good. And that needs to be put on the list eventually. But what I want you to do is have, 3 at least, so you have a good tripod and you can feel, it's like, okay, this is me. Okay. And so I want, and so when I get to the absolute nitty gritty, I want to feel accepted. Okay. So, and that doesn't matter if I have, 200 clients or if I have 1 client. I want to feel accepted. I want to feel admired. I want to be able to think that, okay, through the day, I admire me. I took me for a couple of walks today. I like to go for a walk barefoot. And so I took myself out for a couple of walks and I enjoyed it. I want to feel admired. I want to feel respected. Okay, respected. So how's that working? Do I feed myself decently? Do I give myself rest? Do I give myself breaks? Do I do something to energize my body? And so when I ask these, are there any that are kind of like, where it's kind of feels hard? And, so I see a couple say, it's like, I want to be respected. So it's like, how will you know that you're respected? And, because for me, I can say I respect myself. Well, if I respect myself, and, I wake up at, 7 o'clock and I start working and I work until 10:30 and I didn't go for a walk. I just cooked enough food to slop it down. Did I really respect Joe? And, and it's going to be a mixture, because sometimes, yeah, it's like, hey, I got a lot done. I feel really, really good. Other times it's going to be, I don't know where he was. Haven't seen him all day. And so when we look at it, and especially when we say we want to be respected by other people, we're the ones that teach them about us. we're the ones that are going to be the vocal. We're going to be the ones that are going to be that. I'm going to bring my list back up here. Excuse me. I'm going to go right from this. Okay. I'm going to be the one that's going to be honest. And that was something. So there's a book that I recommend so much. It's probably the most recommended book in my practice is Real Love by Greg Bear. It's B-A-E-R. And I went on a retreat with Greg up in Georgia at his home. And he was talking and he was asking different people about lying. And I said, you'll never catch me in a lie. And he looked at me, he says, you? He says, you're the biggest liar in this whole room. And I was just like, what? You'll never catch me in a lie, And he says, exactly. He says, you don't speak. He says, I purposely have challenged you on 3 different things today. And he says, and all you needed to do is like, hey, I really don't want this. Is there anything else that I possibly could eat? I would really actually go with this group instead of that group. He says, I put you with people, and because it was a very strong retreat. And there was 3 people eventually that 2 were asked to leave. And earlier that day, he actually put me in that group and I hated it. I mean, they were complaining and they weren't doing anything. They weren't doing the exercises. And he says, Joe, he says, you were miserable. He says, you were about to kill him. He says, the only one that you killed was yourself. You never spoke up for yourself. And I was like, oh. And he says, Joe, that's a lie. And he says, you lied to everybody. And I was like, whoa. So has anybody ever lied by omission? Yeah. And so I want you to really look at that. And because, we sit there and, you got to be politically correct, you got to be respectful, you got to be spiritual. But it's very interesting because I was asked to do a consult on somebody a couple of days ago. And the poor guy's in the hospital and he's got no acid in his system. And I'm like, well, yeah, duh. And they're like, well, what do you mean, yeah, duh? And I says, he is so hell-bent on being and spiritual and peaceful that he's sitting there and he's not himself. When he gets irritated and everything, it's all in the right order. And it's like, you could be standing and jumping on this kid's foot and it's all in divine order. And it's like, we get to be able to say yes, but the biggest, most important thing is we get to be able to say no. And when we say no, that's when the yeses really start to matter. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, cool. So I'm going to speed up a little bit here because I want to make sure that I cover everything. And so the safety, before we can even really start to think about what I want to have for the intention is safety. And the safety is being able to do that, being able to say yes and being able to say no, and being able to take care of our own needs. And, sometimes that means that we have to change relationships or spend less time in relationships. Or, I'm not a fan anymore of lying by omission, but there's certain people I'm not going to bother wasting my oxygen on, especially when I go back to Minnesota. When I go back to Minnesota and there's, regular people, I've learned that me speaking really doesn't serve me. And so I'm honest and I just hold that to myself. And so, and there's a couple of things that I'm going to do is I'm going to teach. And this one, I want everybody to stand up. I'm going to have you do 2 different sets of movements and it'll be very, very good. And it looks like some of you guys are constrained by cameras and stuff like that. So if you need to sit down, that's fine. But there's 2 sets of movements that I want you to be able to feel. And when you do them, you're going to be able to feel the physical shift inside your body. And Nicole, this will be extremely helpful for you when you're working with your clients. Nicole's a massage therapist, and and some of you that work with other people, how easy it is to lose our energy to people, and especially when we're trying to make them better. So one of the things I want you to do is just stand with good regular posture, roll your shoulders back just a little bit, and then just simply tilt your chin like 10 degrees. It doesn't have to be cranked up. just 10 degrees. And then simultaneously squeeze your glute muscles, your butt muscles, and then do a Kegel. And Kegel or Kegel, depending on where you live, is squeezing to stop the urine flow. And so hold that there. Excuse me. Okay, and then release. And then shake it off. And then do it all over again. Roll the shoulders back a little bit. Do the Kegel and the glute squeeze. Tilt the chin. And what do you all notice when you do that? Does anybody notice anything in their body when you do that? Taking off. Okay, cool. Yeah, because what happens is when we do this, yeah, you can sit down and I'll talk again in a minute about the next one. And the next one you can actually do seated quite easily too. But when we do this, when we do the glute squeeze, the women's volleyball team at Nova Southeastern University, I worked with them for a semester. And when I taught the women this, they called it the Google movement because they were all still in college at the time. And they realized that when they did that Kegel and glute squeeze, that it helped them get in connection with their own intuition. And when they would do it before class started, and you could even do it when you're sitting in class, you can just simply, do the Kegel and the glute squeeze, you will feel the energy start to rise up into your body. And when you do this, what happens is when you engage that in the very essence of your root chakra, you're going to be able to feel your connection to your third eye. You might feel it in the back of you, but you're going to be able to feel your intuition. And when we do this in Kundalini yoga, they call just the root lock, or they call the Kundalini, goodness sakes, the glute squeeze and the Kegel, they call that the root lock. And what it is that brings all that energy up. When you tilt your chin, it changes the brain chemistry. When you tilt your chin, it's impossible. Well, actually, it's not impossible, but the brain chemicals start to change. And so when we're sad or we're depressed, if we simply tilt our chin 10 degrees, it starts to change. So, and the next one, you can do it while you're sitting down. You put your hand, over your first and second chakra, and then put your hand over your heart. And it doesn't matter which one's where. You can do, I found myself, it's like, oh, I'm doing it differently because I always would do it this way. But this morning I started out like this. And when you're engaging that first and second chakra, you're engaging the safety and security, and you're engaging the creativity, sexuality, and the hormones. And then you're coming up to the heart. So what do people feel when you do that? Does anybody notice anything? I see Lily's trying to say something. You can unmute yourself if you want.
It's really a sense of safety and security for me. I feel just the warmth and love for myself.
Cool. And that's the thing. Thank you. That's the thing that ends up happening. And what I want you to understand is that your body is this whole chemical bag. Okay. And it's also this electric bag as well. And because we're on the phone all the time, we're on the computer all the time, we really get disconnected from our polarity. And so when we have the polarity, what ends up happening is our intuition, living from the intuition, this is, feeling it, this is living from it back here. When you're in that safety and security, your intuition is going to be so much more strong, and your safety is going to be so much more. And it's really important to be able to feel that. Is this making sense for everybody? Okay, terrific. Okay, and so now as you're feeling, and you can even do the Kegel and the glute squeeze as we're continuing to talk, as you're sitting there, just doing that. And when you do, you're going to feel that energy come up. And it's something that when I teach this, some of the people, like Terry's been in my class, and I don't know if Terry was one of them, but during the class, I have the students do this all the time. And I tell them, it's like, okay, Google movement, and everybody does the Google movement, and with the Kegel, the glute squeeze and all that. And what ends up happening is the people go home like, man, did I sleep so good? And what ends up happening is think about this, and I think about that, and I think about that, and our whole world is like that. Okay, now rest well. It's just like, excuse me, how the hell am I supposed to rest? You know, I got my thoughts here and I got my thoughts there. Well, when we do the Kegel and the glute squeeze, what it does is it brings that energy right straight through here. And it actually, as you hold it, you're going to start to feel your lungs open up and relax. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, cool, awesome. So now, as we have a little bit of safety and a little bit of security, I want you to start to think about dreaming. You know, and I don't know about you guys, but when I was young, dreaming was silly. Okay. Who are you to think, you know, that you're going to get that? Who are you that you think you're so special? You know, what about your brother? What about your sister? You know, what about the starving kids in China? I mean, all these crazy things, you know, what do you think? Money grows on trees? Well, now all of a sudden we're told, hey, whatever you think, you create. And it's like, well, we're told all these different ways that you don't matter, you know, that what you think is too much. You know, how is that ever going to happen? And I never ever direct that kind of energy out to you guys, never, because it is energy and it does go out. And so when I do it like this, it's kind of, have you guys seen, you kept your dreams to yourself? Yeah. And avoiding? Yeah, exactly. I mean, has anybody been laughed at when you share your dreams with somebody? You know? Yeah. So this is what we want to be able to do is we want to, in this divine, you know, and in a minute, I'm going to get to the point where there's even some more strength when I involve the archetypes for everybody. But when we come into this divine, it's all about you. It's not, okay, you got to be different in order to be divine. It only says be vocal. It only says be bright. It only says be vivid. And it's just like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to see if I can do this here. Okay, so there we go. Or do we? Oops, there. Okay, now be bright. You know, seriously, it is that easy. When we choose to be bright, and Yvonne, can you tell me, what does that say? You got to unmute yourself, Yvonne.
It says, now I tell people afterwards what I did, so no one tries to talk me out of it or judge it.
Definitely. And I've actually taken pictures in my, I'll write it down, I'll date it, I'll take a picture, put it on my phone, and then I'll be able to show somebody, you know, months, weeks later. See, you can see the date and the timestamp, you know, and because some people will support your dreams and some people won't, you know, and, you know, there's a client that I'm working with, and it's amazing to see the difference in this guy. He's got a really substantial illness, and he was given all these prognoses. And I says, well, I says, what do you think? And he says, I really just don't feel that it's true. And I said, okay, cool. And so when we work, I said, what do you notice? I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling that I can actually feel my toes. He says, how on earth can I feel my toes? Do you care on how you can feel your toes? Or do you just, are you happy that you're feeling your toes? He says, I'm really, really happy that I'm feeling my toes. I said, cool. And he's somebody that is like, don't tell anybody, you know, and this is something, you know, I respect all religious beliefs, but, you know, one that I really like is, you know, Jesus, and he was talking, and Jesus at times said, go home, tell everybody, you know, after he did a healing. And other times he says, go and tell nobody. Because some people are going to celebrate you and some people are going to be happy. And some people are going to knock you down. How can that happen? That's all, it's just got to be in your head. I mean, you know, when I recovered and I got off the oxygen, people were so damn worried. It's like, oh my God, Joe, you shouldn't be off your oxygen. Where's your tank and everything? Can I go get your tank? And it's just like, no, I don't need my oxygen anymore. And they were so worried and they were so sure of it. And some people, oh, it was just in your head. And so one of my doctors, he says, hey, can I draw your blood? I said, oh, that'd be fantastic. And so he drew my blood, you know, and this is what it was, you know, was the sick blood and this was the healthy blood. And he showed me, and he did the graphs, you know, he had colored highlighters where he showed different things. And then he had taken one where it was, there was 3 things. He says, Joe, he says, these never reverse. It's physically impossible that these reversed. He says, you're not the same human being. I was, cool, you know, and it was miraculous. And so we have to be able to take that miraculous energy and hold it inside of ourselves. We have to be able to be that one to believe for ourselves. Does this make sense for everybody? Okay, cool. So I want you to think, you know, if you dreamt, what would your dream really be? What is it that you would really want? So, and I've worked with clients, you know, since 2001, but I started coaching in 2012. And every single one of my clients since 2012 has had financial gains after we've worked together. And that's one of the things where Yvonne had said, Joe, you need to change the order of your words for your program. You need to put wealth first, and then wellness, and then life wisdom. And because I always had it wisdom, wellness, and wealth, because I always thought about, like Napoleon Hill says, is that wealth comes after all the changes that we do to make our person better. But it's also something people want to know, like, what kind of difference is it going to make? And so I want you to think, what is it that you really would like? What is it that you would really desire? And there's a program that's taught in the Unity churches, and it's called the 4 T's. And it's all about manifesting. And when they say, write down the things that you want to manifest, they say, write down 4 things you want to manifest in the next 90 days and make at least one where there's no way that it will ever happen unless Creator makes it happen. And so I want you to do that. I want you to take some time. And if there's anybody that wants to share anything, cool, we will do that. But you don't need to share it. But I want you to think about what are, you know, 3 or 4 things in the next 90 days that I want to be able to receive. And when you think about that, I want to receive. Because if we want to say, I want to have is an accomplishment. Receiving is being open. Receiving is being that catcher for Creator. You know, and so when people think about the dreaming, there's what you can do is you can look at, what do I want to fix, or what do I want to resolve? Is there anything in my life that I want to fix? And then what is it that I don't want? And then when you think about what it is that you don't want, you're going to be able to think about the things that you do want. And what I want you to think about too is, in this process, what are some of the things that, what are the processes that you will put into place that will bring you closer to that vibration and that vitality that you need to be in order to be able to receive this? Because when I work with clients, when I'm coaching them through this, first of all, the whole idea is like, I get to dream. Well, can I get back to you next week? And I'm like, heck no. You definitely cannot get back to me next week. You need to be able to dream now. And it's like, well, I don't know how to dream. Okay, well, what did you see today that you thought was cool? It's like, well, I saw a Bentley convertible. That was pretty dang cool. It's like, for me, I don't want a Bentley convertible, but a BMW convertible? Ooh, yes, definitely, totally. And for me, it's like when I saw that house with that landscaping, I thought about that. And so then I get to look to see, what are the processes that's going to be able to make it so I'm clearer to be able to feel that vibration. Does this make sense with everybody? Because this is a part that really hangs people up, because they're just like, okay, well, I I think I feel it because I want it. But it's like, for me, I did this a number of years ago. I wanted to have a new house. My daughter moved down with me, and at the time I was in this really cute little 2-bedroom apartment that had a really beautiful little patio, and I loved it. It was this tiny little place, and it served me perfect. Well, when my daughter came down, we couldn't walk through anything without bumping into each other. And so I said, okay, I want a 3+ bedroom, 2+ bath with a private pool, 2 carports, and some fruit trees. And oh, excuse me. And I wanted it to be affordable. And so I don't know about you guys, but a 3-bedroom with a pool, 2 carports, private pool, fruit trees, and affordable, that really doesn't mix. But I put that out there and I thought about it. I was like, what does it feel like to be in that pool? Private, nobody's there. I can feel it. What did that feel like? What did it feel like to drive up at night, top down, and be able to can you tell me, it says Pamela wants some examples. Can you tell me what that?
Can you give me some examples of what these processes would be?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll do that in a sec. So for me, when I was looking at this, feeling what it felt like, to feel what it felt like to swim in my private pool, okay? To me, that meant coming home at night after going out for a night of dinner and dancing, coming home, just walking to the pool and going in, because nobody could see it. Feeling that openness and that beauty and that all of that. And so I thought about it and I felt it, and I thought about it and I felt it. 5 weeks later, I got a call from a friend of mine. And granted, this is 9 years ago now, but I got a call and he says, Joe, I have this house in Palm City and it's on 3 acres. It's got a private pool, got 2 carports. It's got 2 mango trees, 2 mulberry bushes, and a Florida avocado. And he says, would you like to house watch that? And he says, you can stay there as long as you'd like. And he says, but I have to let you know, it's $500 a month. And so it's like, I don't know about you, but a pool, 3 bedrooms, it was actually 3 baths and private pool, beautiful place, serene for $500. I mean, you couldn't rent that for under $3,600. And so that's the kind of thing. And the process it's a really, really good question, because we have to first clear out all of the blocks that are stopping us from being able to achieve. And this is the part where most people don't understand that they have the blocks. And the subconscious is that way. The subconscious is literally, it's in a language that we don't speak. And so being able to find those blocks is hard. But it's what you can do. When I coach people through this. So it's like, if you're doing it on your own, it's like, okay, I want a peaceful, beautiful place to live. Okay, so when you think about peaceful, okay, cool, beautiful, okay, that's a kind of little bit wiggly place to live. Ooh. And so that's for me where it gets even more wiggly. So you can look at when you start to describe what it is that you want. So say you want a harmonious relationship, with significant other or a sibling. Well, I want to be able to talk free. Sometimes we can't even get the words out. I want to be able to talk freely and be respected and be respectful. So when we say what it is that we desire, your whole system, your whole vibration is going to wiggle. And so, excuse me. So one of the things that, remove the blocks first. And so one of the things that you can do is I'll ask my clients to think about this, and I'll say, think about 3 things that whenever you think about them, they'll always make you feel good. And right now, when I cough like this, there's something that's coming up that I really, really need to talk about. It's not because of the remnants of the cold. And so the thing that I need to talk about is it allowable? is it allowable for you to ask? And is it allowable for you to dream? Because there was a woman that was going to be on here, and as we were talking about it, she goes, well, she just couldn't conceive the idea that she could dream. She couldn't conceive the idea that things were going to work out. And so what I want you to really think about is if I allowed myself to feel this, if I allowed myself to feel that things were really going to work out, what would it be like? Does that make sense for everybody? And so, so one of the other things that I do is think about 3 things that whenever you think about them, they always make you feel terrific. So I think about 3 things. I think about the first time that I held my first daughter. I think about a particular scuba trip. And then I think about swimming in a glacier sea up at the top of the Swiss Alps. All of those make me feel just absolutely incredible. You know, holding my baby the first time, oh my God, the miracle, all that whole vibration. That particular scuba diving trip with a friend of mine, it was just one of the most peaceful, most amazing things because we're sitting here, there's this whole different creation. It's like, oh my God. I mean, it was amazing. Swimming in the glacier sea was a dream that I'd had for 13 years. Actually, I guess 12 years maybe. As I was 6 years old, I was watching my dad show slides of his trip to Europe. And I said, someday I'm going to swim in a lake like that. And they all laughed at me because they knew that the snow was melting to form that lake. And they knew how cold it was going to be. But when I came to that lake where the snow melted to form that lake up at the top of the mountains, and I swam in it, it's like, whoa. So I purposely told the story. As I was telling those stories, could you feel it? Could you feel it inside yourself? You know, the different vibrations? Yes, no? Okay, cool. So I want you all to think about, you know, 3 things that whenever you think about, they make you feel great. And I was working with one woman a while back, and unfortunately, she had lots and lots and lots of negativity growing up. Her mother was an alcoholic. Her sister was mean and cranky, and her dad was gone. And then, you know, continued to date, you know, junkie men. And so she's like, what can I do? And she thought about one set of feelings. And when she felt that, I said, okay, whatever it is you're thinking about, that there is all you need to think about. Because you can feel that vibration. So does anybody want to share, you know, 1 or 2 of the things that make you feel really terrific?
Go ahead and put your hands up, or just unmic yourself. We're a group that we can manage the unmiking part.
Okay, well, if it's personal, that's fine. But when you do it, it's very, very similar to the hidden messages in water. So Valentina says floating in the ocean. Okay, yeah, totally. You know, beautiful warm day. Ooh, definitely. And the hidden message in the water, they showed the crystals of gratitude, I love you, thank you, were all very beautiful crystals. And the other weren't. And so this is what we want to be able to do, is get that into us, because every single person that was in The Secret talked about the fact that we forgot about emotions. And so when we have the emotions, then we start to shift this. And this is the part that is so important. If we don't talk about anything else, this is the part where it is so, so, so important that you get to be able to be the one to feel and to think and to feel and to think and to feel and to think. You know, you want to have that where you start to think about something and it's like, what does it feel like? You know, and, you know, there was talk before about destructive relationships. I remember that first time that I was sitting in the chair at home. I was still sick and dying, but I knew whoever it was that was walking up the back deck, I knew it wasn't going to be my ex-wife. And it felt so freeing. It felt so amazing that it was like, I'm able to be me and not have any of that harassment. And so I want you to look, and it's just like, is it, you know, from siblings? Is it from roommates? Is it from significant others? Or is it just from conditioning of your own self that you notch yourself down and notch yourself down and notch yourself down? I want you to be able to start to raise your arms up like this and be able to say, this is me. These are my desires. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to share something, and I like this part a lot. This is a completely different part. And we've talked about all the things about divine. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I'm going to talk about the archetypes. So there's 7 major archetypes for women. And this is something like the Strength Finder 2.0. When all of you do your Strength Finders, I can guarantee you that out of the 12 of you, nobody's going to have the same 5 strengths. If you do, that'd be amazing. Okay. And so with the archetypes, it's the same kind of thing. And as we were talking about before, the archetypes, the mixture is going to be like your favorite meal or your favorite dessert. And just like everybody's going to have a different one of that as well. So, for example, the maiden. Okay, the maiden is the romantic one. The maiden is the one that's trusting and sincere. Okay, she's also easy to exploit. She's also the victim, and she also repeats mistakes. And so you want to look, and it's just like, do I tend to be exploited? Do I tend to be victim? You know, do I repeat the same mistakes? You know, but then we look and it's like, well, God, you're the romance. You're the romance. You know, you're the dreamer. You know, you're the one that trusts in creation, creator. Okay. You're the one that's sincere. So we want to be able to see the ouches, but we want to be able to see the positive. Okay. The other, you know, is mother. Well, the mother is the nurturer. She's the protector. But the mother also can be the victim, can be bitter. Okay. And so we want to look to see, it's like, because has anybody here nurtured and nurtured and nurtured and nurtured so much that you fell over, you know, or you became resentful? Yeah. Okay. So we want to look at those kinds of things. And the sage is logic, you know, ruled by the head, you know, and this is something where very, very often currently lots of women are being the sage because they have to come into that, you know, that masculine kind of edge in the world, in the business world. And so, but the sage with that logic, that's great. You know, it can be really, really good for those kinds of things. And being in that brain can be really, really great too. But the sage is one of the first to self-report that she can't connect to her body. That the pleasure, that she can't feel the pleasure. And they will even go to the extent of saying that they're frigid. And so if you start to feel that maybe your body is letting you down or things like that, you can look to see, it's like, oh, am I too much in the head? You know, is that what's causing this to happen? So then the lover. The lover is sensual, pleasure, ideologist. You know, the lover is going to see the sunrises and the sunsets, is going to be able to smell the food, is going to be able to, of course, enjoy the physical pleasure. But then what ends up happening is the lover gets, you know, too indulgent and then gets in trouble with reality. And this is something that a year and a half ago, I was actually asked to come in because there was a whole group that had gone on this goddess retreat, and it was all about pleasure. It was all about connecting into that, be able to get the flow, be able to have the juices be in that and be in that way. And there was such a high concentration on that what ended up happening is there was a disconnect from reality. And so they were feeling that pleasure, but then they were seeing, oh my God, I'm in these empty relationships. I'm not getting my needs met. I'm getting used. I'm getting manipulated, but it feels so pleasurable. And it exploded. And so it's really important to be able to see, where is the central? Is it good? Because God created us, you know, especially women, you know, there's over 30,000 nerve endings in a small little area, you know. And so God created that for the pleasure to be felt. And it's also so important to be able to tap into that pleasure, because that second chakra is sexuality, creativity, and hormones. Well, we all know how important hormones are. And so being able to feel that and be in that vibe is really important. Is that making sense for people? Okay. So the queen, okay, and the queen to me is something, when we really look at the queen is amazing. She's, she's dynamic. She's an incredible partner. She can sometimes be too dominant. She can definitely be retaliative. She can be jealous. She can be vengeful. But she is so connected to peace, inner wisdom, and the union, that when a queen is really, really in her power, she'll grab that king by the back of the nape of the hair and say, dude, you're making some mistakes. And so the queen is really, really powerful. So we want to be able to look and see, it's like, okay, can I be in that much power and own that much strength without getting into any of the other? And so when that starts to happen, I mean, I think it's amazing, utterly amazing. Mystic, that's spiritual, it's peace, but it's also, it can be the drama. Okay. And, if you go to drum circles or, different gatherings and things like that, it's, the mystic is out there and everything is wonderful, everything is great. And it's just like, and everybody sucks and the world's going to hell and it's all those people's fault, that kind of stuff. And so we want to be able to keep that spiritual stuff. And it's like, how can I use my mystic to be able to get me to really come up to that strength? And when I live that, watch to see everybody come in there. And I'm not going to be having to scream in a megaphone to get anybody's attention. Because of the fact that I'm in that mystic connection, my vibration is going to go high. Is this making sense? Cool. Okay. And then the huntress. In this, the huntress is the warrior, the independent, protects the underdog. And the huntress to me, I think, is just such an amazing woman, because she'll come in there and it's literally like stuff just rolls off her back. She doesn't care about this and everything like that, because she's got an intention, she's got a purpose, and she really, really feels it. The aspect of it that's not such hot, is it's going to win at all costs and can be manipulative. And that, again, you can see sometimes. But when I talk about these different aspects of the archetype, can you see how you own some of these archetype aspects and they're really, really helping you if you really feel into them? Does it make sense? Are there questions? Okay.
Just put a summary up there for people who aren't writing fast enough.
Okay. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about this. And so, oh, you're okay. I didn't see the first part. So you're welcome, Olga, about whatever. So can you tell me what Olga had to say?
Oh, that was about putting in the archetypes, I think, right, Olga?
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah, because what ends up happening is, when I work with clients, the clients that I see, have usually gone through hell and high water. And, very, very often they've gone to other coaches and different things like that. And they wonder why. Why is my life still, whatever? Why am I still dating the same kind of people? Why is it that, my finances just aren't coming up to where I want it to be? And so when you look at these kinds of things, and, when Pamela had asked, it's like, okay, well, what are the processes? Okay. Some of these processes you can do, and what you can do is you can do those three things. What three things? I think about the Alps, I think about the scuba, and then I think about my daughter, and I feel those. And then I think, it's like, should I do this? It doesn't feel like any of those. Then I don't do it. But then I go and I think about, it's just like, okay, should I date this person? Damn, feels like swimming in the Alps, it's like, okay, so swimming in the Alps to me is like, this. And so that's going to be a yes. And so if you come up with three things that whenever you think about them, they always make you have a good vibe and you feel it, then you think, oh, okay, hey, there's this new group, then they're gathering and they're going to be talking about this and they're going to be talking. and you feel your energy go down and down and down. It's like, well, yeah, but they're really socially, pointed, and, and I want to help out. But do you think about it? It's like, for some reason, it just doesn't hold energy. And there's a group that, God, I got about 14, 15 friends that are all running to be in this thing. And, what they're working on is of interest to me, and I would totally do it. But when I think about my 3 things and I think about that group, and unfortunately, it just doesn't resonate. So I'm going to go to a different group, And I was talking about this yesterday. There was a restaurant back in St. Paul that I really loved, and they were known for this one particular meal. And it's like, okay, we're going to go. And we get there, and I tell my friend, it's like, hey, don't order. And she goes, what do you mean? You've been talking to me. She goes, you got me psyched up all week. I'm like, don't order it. And I asked her, I says, feel into this. And she was so, obstinate that, she was way into her sage, way into her masculine, and she did it. And, and I didn't. She got food poisoning, And so if we do those 3 things, that's going to help. The other is when we've gone through stuff, and especially if you're really, really doing deep work, and that's what I specialize is really doing the deep stuff. Being able to, it's like, hey, I'm sick and tired of, doing the same shit. I'm sick and tired of the damn year ending and ending up the same in relationship wise or money wise, or that I just don't feel like I can put my arms up and say I had an incredible year. That's where I come into play, because our subconscious minds, usually we can't see it. We don't hear it. Because what happened is when we were raised in the dysfunction, no matter how loving our parents were, they goofed. They weren't able to be there with unconditional love. So we, unfortunately, are like Swiss cheese. We have plenty of holes, and we look for people, places, and things to fill those holes. And we can think, nah, I'm about that. I don't do that. Okay, cool. How come you have the same relationships year after year? Okay, cool. How come it is that instead of feeling that, it's Monday morning and I had a really good weekend, why is it that you don't feel these kinds of things? Why is it when it's Friday night, you're all by yourself and you're all by yourself instead of being able to relax? And so this is where the work that I come in as an intuitive. I can see the absolute best things about you, and I can see all the blocks that you have as well. I can see everything that holds you back. And so, you guys, what I would ask is that if you want to work with me, set up, I can, you all have my phone number, but I'll put it, Yvonne will put it in the chat, and you can text me and say, hey, Joe, I would love to talk to you in the next couple of days. When can we set it up? And there's a lot of different ways. I do one-on-one healing sessions, just hour sessions. And then I do individual type, consulting and coaching, where I do it in piecemeal. And then I also have my favorite, which is actually working for 90 days. But my favorite doesn't matter. What it is that you need, the way you want to work, the way that fits your personality, that's what it is. And so call me up and we can talk about it and we see what it is. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. So what kind of questions do we have so far? Because there's still some more that I'm going to cover, but I want to make sure that I'm answering everybody's questions. Okay, there's one that's coming up, as so pleasure in the body. Too often people say, oh, I gave up dating, or I gave up sex, or self-pleasure is too much work. And okay, if you're really done because you're really legit natural and that's the way you want to feel, okay, cool. But if it's too much of a hassle, if it's too much of a problem, if it's too much of a bother, then we want to look at it, because you get to decide, nobody gets to say you need to do this, you need to do that. That's not what it is. But if we come up there and we think about something and we have really strong resistance, or we have sadness, or we have disappointment, that's what we want to look at. And when we look at people, when you have, certain pains and illnesses, so often what will happen is people will talk about bioidentical hormones. My hormones are imbalanced. That's why I have the dry skin. That's why, I have no pleasure. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, pleasure is first going to be this connection to everything that's in between here. we have to be able to clear our entire mind to be able to feel. And, you know, and when I talk about clearing your mind, can you guys feel that shift already, you know, starting to happen when you just think about clearing your mind? Okay, I can see some people. And so when you think about it, it's like, what really brings me the feeling that I'm at one with myself? And so, you know, when people are having issues with feeling the pleasure, we want to be able to see, it's like, okay, is it past traumas? Is it past shame? You know, is it that I'm not worthy? Is it that it's not worth the bother? Those kinds of things. And I had that, excuse me, I tried to have that one off at the pass. So when I started to do the healing work back in 2001, it was actually probably about 2002 or 3 that I really, when I was immersing myself completely, totally, and I would start to cough and cough and cough. And so I'd think, oh, it's time for me to shut up. I was like, no, I'd cough and cough and cough. And so I learned that when I coughed, it was really that I was supposed to talk about it more. And so when we look at balancing the hormones and we look at physical illness, you know, whether it's diabetes, whether it's, you know, whatever that's going on, arthritis, you know, fibromyalgia, what we want to be able to do is how are the hormones connected? And what I'll do in the next couple of days is I'll send you guys out the power movements, and they start with the Google movement and the second one that I told you about. But there's one on there that Christiane Northrup talks about, and she is a world-renowned OBGYN, and she talks about bioidentical hormones, and she literally screams at the audience. There's an audience of 3,500 women, and she goes, "For God's sakes, and she's screaming, you have the 2 knobs, use them." You know, and so here she is at the top of her lungs screaming. And she says, if you take the energy center of your palms, just the circle of your palms, and put them over your nipples, she goes, if you do this 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day, she says, I will guarantee you that you'll have better looking skin. And so people really don't talk about it too much, but if you want to go to a really smart doctor, go to a veterinarian. And a veterinarian will say that the condition of the skin will tell you the condition of the whole rest of the body. So if you're having skin issues, if you're having dryness and such like that, whatever, and you start to simply just be like that, you know, it doesn't matter. You can put clothes on, clothes off. Certainly if you do the clothes off, you're going to have more of an energetic connection because it's more electronic. But if you just hold it and you don't have to think about anything, you don't have to imagine anything, you just be there, your body will start to shift and it'll start to change. So if you have things where the doctors are regularly looking at enzyme levels or blood levels or whatever, if you do this, if you commit 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day, you will start to be able to see the changes in your results. And what I look is that when women start to do this, this is where we carry the breast of burden, the chest of burden, you know, like we want to get this load off my chest, those kinds of things. And when we're able to clear that, it's amazing to see what can be created. And when I've had women do this, what will happen is I say, do it, you know, 2 or 3 times, but, you know, give it at least 5 times. And there was one particular client, and she called up the person that had recommended her to me. You know what he wants to do? And she's like, he doesn't know if you're doing it. He's not watching. That's not what this is. She goes, if he said it, do it. And so she did it. And after the 3rd time that she did it, the amount of rage and hurt that came out of this woman was amazing. Because what 6 weeks later or earlier, she had found out at her husband's funeral that he was married to another woman and had children with her, and he had never chosen to have children with her. And so when she did this, all of that rage and all of that anger came up off of her body. And she had really chartable aspects with her illness and disease that started to shift and change by doing that kind of work. So does that make sense? Is it? Okay, cool. And so what kind of questions were popping up there? I missed one.
We have some people saying yes, they want to book a call for you, so we'll make sure that that happens. And I had asked people to put Q with the question as we were going through the chat window, but I think you've been answering most of them as we've been going.
Okay.
What's coming up, ladies, that you have questions for?
Yeah,
Joe?
because this is your time. I want to make sure, you know, that you get what you came here for. And when I send you out the power movements, those are going to be more ways of you being able to increase your physical power, increase your intuition, and increase the feeling of safety. The first two that we did, the Google movement and simply the hand over the first and second and the hand over the heart, those are the two quickest that just jam, just absolutely right on. They're going to completely change that. There's another one I'm going to share with you because this one sometimes really confuses people. And so what was Olga's question? What's the difference between?
Between the three options of working with you.
Oh, okay. I'll get to that. So one of the things is people talk about energy vampires or stealing energy, you know, all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that is the most powerful, and I just love it because when I was going through training, my mentor, we would go and we would actually teach this to women that were in abuse shelters. And I would actually teach it to all of the people that we were going through training with. And he did it at the shelters. And what it is you simply start up at the top and you point your fingers at your body. You don't actually need to touch it. You just go all the way through your midline. And when you get down at the bottom of the root chakra, you push your hand out and away. So, and when you do this like that, what you do is you start all that which is mine, and then all that which is yours is yours. And Dana, if you're there, you know you need to do this. So you get to do this, and it's just like all that which is mine, all that which is Pensacola's is Pensacola's. So, when you do all that which is mine, all that which is yours. People say, well, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to harm anybody. All you're doing is you're giving them their energy back. So you can't harm them. But the absolute amazing, wonderful thing about this is you can test this. If you're having a conversation with somebody and they're blowing smoke up your tush, you know, they're lying, okay? And you say, you know, and I'll just sit there, you know, and I was going through some legal issues with somebody in my past, and I just would scratch my head and go like this, and then underneath the table I would push and I would say, all that which is mine, all that which is yours is yours. And so what would happen is as I would do that, all of a sudden she couldn't finish her sentence. I'm like, okay, all that which is mine, all that which is yours. And so both of the attorneys, it's like, you know, what is it you want? I don't know. He's got me all confused and everything like that. But she didn't know that I was doing that. But when she wasn't speaking the truth, she couldn't finish her sentence. And so, but I practice this a lot. And especially at that time, because it's in martial arts, there's other terms for it. It's a very, very, very powerful tool. But when you go, all that which is mine, it zips the energy up like this, okay? It takes the left and the right and brings it together so it's strong. And it's kind of like putting up, you know, a protection. And then when you go back like that, I don't do it to the person's body unless I need to disturb them. So I used to play league volleyball in Minneapolis. And there was one time where there was two guys that came out of an alley and one had a gun and one had a knife. I was like, oh shit, you know, I had just played volleyball for 3.5 hours. My legs were like noodles. There was no way that I was going to be able to turn around and even halfway decent walk up the hill. You know, I certainly wasn't going to be able to run from them. And so as an energy, you know, expert, I can look at people and I can see where they're weak and I can see where they're strong. So I looked at the weakest one of them and I could see a body part of his that was weak. And I was like, all that which is mine. And with all my energy, I was like, all that which is yours is yours. And I did it at and he tripped. And when he tripped, they had words and I ran around him down the hill and I was able to get away. And my mentor, when he would teach it to the people in the abuse center. But I would teach kids that were in juvenile detention. I would teach the women down here in Florida that were in abuse shelters. And I would, all the kids that were in troubled relationships, I would do the same thing. All that which is mine, all that which is yours. And get really adept to doing it, where you can just scratch your self, and nobody knows you're doing it. Because when you do that, it is so powerful and so strong. And I talked about the fact that if you do this and you do it right, they can't do you harm. That's if you practice it a lot. You got to practice it a lot where you can feel it like this. You can feel zoop. You can feel that, okay, my energy, literally it's like doing the glute squeeze. You can feel your energy coming right in and you feel strong. And then it's like, when you do that and you give them back their energy, you can actually almost feel it and see it leave to go back to them. And
Brilliant.
so, yeah, if you practice this, it's amazing. And so anybody that's going to go through a court deal, practice this, and get to the point, and where you do it, all that which is mine is mine, all that which is yours, and it's amazing.
Excellent.
It's really, really, really powerful.
You saved the best wisdom nugget there for the very, very last. So want to make sure that Olga gets her question answered. And this may be of interest to quite a few people too, just to capture the difference between, what's the three options of working with you?
Sure. So the three options is one-on-one healing sessions, okay? And the one-on-one sessions, that's an hour healing session, and it's where I do the reading and the healing energy together. And we do those over the phone. I have clients all over the world. I've been remote since 2001 when I was practicing and learning this. Everybody that I was learning with didn't live near me. So that's that. And then the coaching, the one that I like the most is the one that I can absolutely, completely, totally guarantee results. And that's, the one that Yvonne had suggested that I changed to wealth, wellness, and wisdom. And that's the one where we work for 90 days. And so there's 12 times that we meet on Zoom. And when we meet on Zoom, I will be doing teaching and I will be doing healing work. And then every other day that we don't meet, you will leave me a Marco Polo video. And so what it is during our Zoom, I'll talk about lessons and I'll say, it's like, okay, I see this is really, really fantastic about you. This is really, really wonderful about you. And this is something we really want to focus and improve. And so I'll talk about that. And then I'll say, and we want to get rid of this. We don't want to have any more of this. This is that sneaky, ugly thing that really keeps up. And so when you leave your Marco Polo every day, you're going to be able to tell me, this is what I'm experiencing. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll get back to you 5 out of the 7 days with a Marco Polo to you. And when I do that, yeah, I guarantee you that you will feel physically, emotionally, spiritually more happy. You will have the greatest sense of self-love and self-acceptance that you've ever felt in your entire life. You're going to feel like the universe is really working with you and conspiring with you, and achieving creative things is really going to start to be able to happen. Because like I say, every client that I've done that with since 2012, every single one has had bonuses, career changes, money paid back where they thought they'd never see it again, and incredible deals on houses and cars. And so that's the one that I like. I'm also looking at starting up a group again to be able to do the same thing, but in a group atmosphere to make it a little bit more affordable. And the other is one that we just talk and we see. It's like, okay, Joe, the coaching aspect, I don't want to do the 90, but I definitely want to do something. And then we sit down and we just look to see what of that makes the most sense. Does that make sense for everybody?
Excellent.
Sure.
So I did put in the chat window that you were kindly, for anybody who's booking a call with you while we're on the call here, or just texting or putting their hand up and saying, yes, I want a spot, that you would honor your 2023 prices. Correct?
Yes, yeah. Oh, and also you wanted to, so Yvonne has a really wonderful book, that she's written, and she would like to give everybody her chapter 8. And do you want to talk about what the chapter 8 is?
Sure. Just briefly, I don't have the nice looking copy here, but it's called Words, Women, and Wisdom, the Modern Art of Confident Conversations. So it's actually 40 different words and word concepts to help women ask for what they want and get it. using assertive language, crossing out some things, adding some other things, bringing in energy work. And chapter 8 is when no words are even required. So I thought it might be a nice compliment to Joe's work. I'm happy to gift that to, again, if you're planning on working with Joe or you want to put your hand up, I'm happy to gift that as well.
Yeah, and if you do that, if you, everybody that has said that they want to call, what I'll do is I'll text you tomorrow or I'll call you directly and we'll set up a time that works for you. And because as you can tell, you know, I gave you everything that I promised, okay? I'm not one of those that says, oh, come to my amazing webinar so I can sell you, you know? It's like, come to my amazing webinar so you can feel empowered, so you can feel, you know, and so you can know that you have some tools. And I will send the recording out to people. And so you can have this, because when you start to really look at the fact that you are the magnificent miracle, and if you really start to look at what is your makeup, what is your recipe, and you really feel that, your whole world's going to shift, your whole world's going to change. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Any extra questions? Well, we've got Joe's undivided attention. This is now. Kathy, a shout out to Joe for his work. Deep and profound, done with love and kindness. If you're looking for the shift, he's the real deal. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Great session, says Donna. Yeah.
Oh, you can't save the chat?
Can that be sent out? We will figure out how to do that. And before we cut off the end of the, we might stop the recording, but before we cut off the end of that,
yeah, I guess
we can figure out how to do that. Yes.